Good God night. Thanks for joining me again. I know you thought I wasn't going to make it, right? Well, I just want to heed you to think just a minute concerning Ecclesiastes 7 and 19. It says, wisdom makes one wise man more powerful than 10 rulers in a city. Selah for that for just a minute. Father, I thank you that even now that you're reminding us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And we give you praise tonight that you're going to give us understanding. In Jesus' name. Well, I want to jump right in here. Proverbs 6 is very in depth, and you need to take your time and read it for such a time as this. I want to jump in here, as always, and give you some words that stood out to me in this particular chapter 6. And remember, we're looking at this one, it's got a lot of wisdom for you to get a revelation about, or understand about where you might be or where you need to be. So Proverbs 6 is offering you a lot of practical wisdom on a various level of this concerning responsibility, concerning relationships, concerning being diligent. We talked about moral standards yesterday, and of course avoiding destructive behaviors. I think it's important that you think about these so God can, remind you that if you want to stay wise, you're going to think about your relationships too. You're going to think about aligning your life being more fruitful with people who are trying to become fruitful. So let's look at verses 1 and 2. He's talking about the responsibility and financial caution. Okay. Think about where are you taking caution on your financial situation and the promises of God. We want to make sure that we be very cautious in these promises and guarantees and things like that. We'll get ourselves involved with other people and to guard your words, of course, and to commit to making sure that you avoid being trapped with unwise decisions. Because many times we find ourselves wanting to do things to do that God has not told us to do. And then the second part of this is thinking about those areas in diligence. This is the second part I think stood out in verses 6 through 8. And the analogy of the ant was very, very powerful. If you look in that particular verse, it really brings it out how the ant is so smart. It has great initiative. The ant don't need a commander to tell them what to do. It don't need anybody to get them started. We can go and knock down an ant bed and it's gonna build it right back real fast. And guess what? They work together. Okay, they ain't trying to have snowman mentality. They ain't trying to pull one another down. They're there to work with each other. And this is where we're missing it today. And they have this source of insight that we need to make sure that we understand and be a compound unit to work together. And that's what the ant does. They may burn and sting us real bad, but guess what? They protecting their own, and that's what we need to do: protect each other, not shoot each other. I don't want to get no further than that. But anyway, the diligence is in this in verses, like I said, 6 through 8. It's talking about making sure that we be proactive, to work hard, to prepare for the future. The ants way of doing things is very industrious. It shows us a model of avoiding laziness and ensuring that we are always ready for life challenges. And then verses 9 through 11 talks about avoiding laziness. I don't want to get too further in that either because I could talk all day long on those who are lazy, who don't even try. They're sluggards. And so when we think about this part of us slumbering now, being lazy all the time because of maybe you feeling down, but you need to get up and quit being so slowful about so many things. And this is going to bring poverty. It's going to make sure that you don't ever get to where you need to be because you're so someone who procrastinates all the time. You just have this lazy spirit that has caused you to be there for whatever reason. But laziness is your lesson in this, talking about procrastination, how it's going to lead you to poverty and lack, and regular discipline. It's trying to show you how to have regular discipline and to work so that you can lead yourself towards success and provision. Then verses 12 through 14 is talking about being a troublemaker. Now, this is very important because we're talking about honesty, integrity, and deceit in this one. These malicious type, hard-hearted people who wait and look for plots and schemes to go and make sure that it keeps you from going ahead. It's very deceitful. It's there to always cause issues. So you need to avoid these type of people and these type of behaviors, even in yourself. Try not to be so manipulative and cunning. These people who act with dishonesty, they stir up all kind of conflict and trouble. So while life of an integral type of spirit brings peace and fulfillment, you can automatically see when you see this person who's running with evil thoughts and deeds, they go to bed trying to figure out how they can figure you out to hurt you or set traps for you. Be careful. That's what 12 through 14 is trying to show you. And then verses 16 through 19 is talking about the 7 things God hates. Go and read them. They're there. As I said early on, these wicked schemes, feet quick to try to run to evil, false witnesses, pouring out lies, backstabbers, and haters and fakers. Look at pride. It's talking about lying. It's talking about violence and discord. It's showing you this lesson to avoid these behaviors and these detestable people who detest God with their pride and their deceitful, violent ways, stirring up conflict. These are very destructive type of mentalities, both within a person's self and among the community and those people they claim that they care about. And then verses 25 through 26 is talking about adultery and immorality. You definitely want to look at that one and want to make sure you realize that this is one of the one that's talking about adultery, talking about lust, talking about immorality. It's showing you to guard your heart against lust and immorality. It's showing you how adultery is destructive, both not just in relationships, dating, but look at people who are very adulterous that are legally married. When you talk about shacking up in adultery, and it brings this significant harm, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually to people. And then in verse 27 and 28, it's talking about the consequences of sin. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Okay, we say like that. We're talking about the consequences of the sin and danger. When you look at these lessons that sin is trying to show us, especially sexual sin, these people who continue to do these type of things, it's inevitable that the consequences are going to be there. You're going to have to pay and reap what you've sown or dabbled with. And in these types of behaviors, it's going to lead to a whole lot of personal harm. Now, we ain't talking about just diseases. We talking about spiritual disease. We talking about soul ties and all these things that tear you down emotionally and physically. And guess what? It gets you burned sometimes more than your heart burning from pain and hurt. But you get burned, as they say in the street, a whole lot of diseases. Now, let's look at jealousy and anger. Very important in verses 34 through 35. It talks about anger, jealousy, and revenge. We got to look at this is going on across the globe today where people are literally killing each other. We got to be mindful of the consequences of jealousy and betrayal in these relationships. And adultery, it can lead to so many devastating conflicts where no compensation is there, no restored marriages, there's only damages there. When you think about all what we've been talking about here in these particular verses, I want you to think about the summary of the themes of how these are going to be aligned with where God is trying to take you now. I think it's so important you read this whole chapter 6 and really meditate on it deeply, because it's talking about financial responsibility, to be cautious about that and your commitments. It's talking about diligence and working hard and planning ahead and avoiding laziness. It's talking about integrity, being honest, and avoid deceitful people and your deceitful behavior that you may be doing to other people. It's talking about avoiding sin, to be aware of the consequences of the sin, particularly sexual immorality, and to seek purity. It's talking about conflict avoidance, making sure you have the right relationships and mindset for you to stay away these particular people that stir up conflict, whether through pride, lying, or deceit. And it's talking about guarding your relationships. Protect your relationship from jealous, lustful people and people that are nothing but haters and fakers who are nothing but betrayals. My God, guard your heart. Live wisely, work diligently, and maintain integrity to avoid these destructive behaviors that can lead to spiritual and personal ruin. I love you in the Lord. I pray that you share this, and I pray I get to talk to you earlier tomorrow. God bless you. Love you.